So if they lose to Gambit now, they will equal Gambit's 0-5 run in the spring split. It's a scary situation to be in for both of these teams.
It's fun to see here the first ban from Giants is going to be the Graves, because Giants as a team actually has the most different bans. They always look for target bans. Yeah, last week, so not yesterday, could have been yesterday, but last week against Fnatic, we saw Annie and Leona being banned against Fnatic from Giants to try and target out Yellowstar. Now they go straight for Pinoy here with, of course, the Graves.
Yeah, of course, that's Graves has been Pinoy's go-to. You know, he used a fantastically IM Cologne last year against CLG, as Scumbag Crepo was alluding to, and last week as well. Great performances. That interesting stat that Pinoy is tied for most kills with Reckless at 35, despite the team that's at the bottom of the table and is not looking particularly good. Gambit finds ways to get kills on the board.
They do, and they find a lot of ways to die as well to the other team, which is the main problem for Gambit, is they seem to get caught out in bad spots where they should never been able to die, and yet they manage to find a way. So definitely a thing I know that Coach Leviathan is working a lot on, and we have already seen some improvement from Gambit if you look back the last few weeks. And now playing Giants, this all-important game down the bottom of the standings. You want to make sure you beat the teams just around you, so you avoid that number 10 spot and being, of course, automatically relegated down to the Challenger Series.
So, right down to the last ban. Graves, Nidalee, Rek'Sai taken off the table for Giants. Rumble still up, Lissandra still up, Jarvan still up, Na, Ari, and Jax taken off the table for Gambit. Interesting, Nick was talking about Ari. We know Pepanera plays it. This game, most likely going to be Kassadin, but it is a flex pick.
It is a flex pick, but it's actually a first pick I like more and more. I used to think there was a lot of counters to Kassadin, but after watching 3 or 4 weeks into every single region now, we've actually seen Kassadin do really well in close to every matchup, unless he's against the likes of, let's say, a Gnar in that top lane, but he's being banned away in this game here. So I like the flex pick from Giants. Doesn't really tell too much. Kassadin fits into nearly every single comp, except for maybe a Siege comp.
Yeah, we need to see how these teams decide to lock in their champions. It's the first game here in week number 4. Both teams really taking their time. So you've cut to multiple shots of the respective team coaches, Lothar and Leviathan respectively, chatting away to their team members. Not surprised to see that Jarvan locked in for Gambit Gaming. It has been one of Diamond's go-tos. Interestingly, he's run the Skirmisher Saber all 3 times running Jarvan. The only victory Gambit have under their belt is when Diamond actually went with a Chilling Smite.
Yes.
1 in 5, 1 in 6 actually.
I'm gonna have to see if he wants to do the same today. Again, he likes to do it on Jarvan, and he's again, the problem about Skirmisher Saber early on is it requires you to find these one-on-one fights with the enemy jungler. Otherwise, it won't really be useful before the late game where you can use it on the AD carry. So he often sets himself behind a little bit in terms of ganking or farming by getting obviously the Skirmisher instead of Trailblazer or the Stalker's Blade. But I actually like the fact he takes away Jarvan, because I feel like that's going to be the best jungler for Frederick. Not necessarily his best pick, but just because that jungler actually offers so much for Giants in terms of early ganking and also strong snowball potential, which is what Giants plays around. They have to win the early game and snowball out of control before you get to late game where they are lacking behind.
Well, another champion that has early ganking power and the ability to start a snowball is Lee Sin. Locked in there for Frederick. I'm glad you mentioned it. What we've seen Giants doing traditionally in the last few weeks is focusing for Werlib, but it's not worked out. It has not been successful with the exception of those Jax games. And it's actually Pepanera that's been fed almost all of the gold. Pepanera's got some early kills, and I'd like to see Frederick putting more pressure on that mid lane.
Pepanera is the only player on Giants who's actually keeping up in CS compared to whoever he's laning against. The rest, on average, actually falls behind, so it's going to be all about Pepanera in this mid lane, and I want to see, as you just said here, Frederick, put some more focus on him. Get him going in the laning phase so he can start roaming to top lane, to bottom lane, and then he can be the big carry for you. Ignore Whirly, he's not getting that Jax anymore, it's banned in every single game after week 1. So just focus on Pepanera, he's going to be your star player.
And it does 2 things. It also puts pressure on Nick, a player who has also been underperforming this split. Yes, he had some good games last week on Kassadin, but that's now off the table. So Zed and Kalista locked in. To Fisher, we were talking about Kalista leading up to today's games, and Pinoy's going to pull her out.
Yeah, we've only seen Freeze actually play her here in Europe, but of course been a very, very strong pick in other regions, and so now being picked up by Gambit and Pinoy. All in all, when you run Kalista Zed, your last pick here needs to have some AP damage. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very easy for Giants to itemize against you going into the late game. So I want to see if we're going to get like a Cassiopeia maybe in the top lane for Coppershot. Has been a pick for him in the past. But that would be a very squishy comp from Gambit. So we're going to have to see what they do with the last one.
A lot of importance on getting those team fights going. Both Giants and Gambit ran their games relatively long last week. Gambit had a 51 and a 59-minute game respectively. And something that both of these teams have demonstrated is a fairly weak mid to late game. We'll get to that in a moment as Giants have rounded out their composition. Caitlyn plus Nami is your duo. Azir and Kasten both can go middle or top, so some flexibility for Giants.
How on earth did Azir go all the way down to the last few picks? That's such a good pick for Giants here. Again, it's the flex as you mentioned. Also, you have some very good pushing potential actually through the Caitlyn and the Azir. We have this Caitlyn Nami lane, which used to be the old fast pushing lane from Giants as well. So as long as this Kassadin can actually just sit and farm in the laning phase, then you can rely on the Caitlyn and Azir to group up early, just 4v1 split, and take down these towers here, because Gambit on their side, unless we get a very early Hurricane from a Kalista, they're not bringing a lot of wave clear. They're going to have again also to get some AP damage. I don't think it's going to be Katarina. I would assume a Cassiopeia for Coppershot in this top lane.
Yeah, I do think Giants have a lot of scaling in their favor. Morgana locked in, so this is going to be in the mid lane most likely, or top lane in fact, as Coppershot's going to pull out. There's your AP that you were looking for.
There's the AP we were looking for, and we've actually seen Trace from Jin Air over in Korea play top lane Morgana a lot. I believe he's undefeated on it as well. And the trick is, if you have a one-on-one matchup, you can just push the lane from level 1 with your pool, and you just keep pushing it down to the enemy turret. You get a few hits on it, you get it lower and lower and lower, and it's so hard to gank you because you have the black shield to prevent you from getting CC'd, and then you just keep pushing the lane. In the end, the tower will be so low, you do a quick rotation up, take it, get that global gold, and obviously get into these mid-game team fights where you have now Kalista, who should have a Hurricane by that time. You have the Morgana, where she's extremely strong, and you take the fights right there, packing a lot of CC suddenly.
So let's see if Gambit can pull that one off. Well-executed team fights is not something that they've been known for in the opening weeks of the spring split. Last week against H2K, truthfully, it was a game of throws. Both teams making massive mistakes. Gambit pushed all the way to the Nexus inside the base before getting aced, basically, and then lost the game. So Gambit cannot afford those same levels of mistakes with this composition.
Especially because Giants want to go late game here. Kassadin, Azir, Caitlyn, all fantastic scaling, but their mid game is fairly weak. So I actually worry a little bit for Giants here, because normally they're only good in the early game and have terrible late game shot calling, but they have the comp now to win in the late game if they get there. Well,
there's the two team comps on your screen. Let us know if you agree or disagree with the Fisher. Who do you think is going to come out ahead at LOL Esports? Hashtag GIA win or hashtag GMB win. It is obviously going to be Gambit sitting with the advantage in the early game. It's Giants with the late game. No matter who wins, it's going to be a GG. Giants Gaming taking on Gambit Gaming in the first game of the day in week 4. I do want to reiterate that Gambit have had games all split long where they've had leads, and they've also been a little uncoordinated when it comes to pushing those advantages in the mid game. It looked the same last year in Cologne, which has an event they won, but it's a long time since then, and we need to see what sort of practice Gambit have put in this last week.
It's been very solo queue-like for Gambit. Again, a lot of just random individual plays, which would then get punished by the other team because they would catch you out and then just kill you, and obviously Gambit would then fall too far behind. But I want to talk about this Morgana a little bit, because typically you want to pick Morgana into the likes of maybe with a hyper carry, because your late game damage on a Morgana is somewhat unreliable. It's more about the early to mid game, and you don't really want to pick her into a Kassadin either because of his magic shield. He's actually going to be able to farm fairly easily against Coppershot, and that's also why Gambit right now he's setting up for potential lane swap. And obviously you don't want Kalista into a Caitlyn lane, especially not with a Nami. So Gambit has to lane swap in this game with such a strong bottom lane from Giants.
Let's see how that lane swap plays out. Just to remind the viewers at home, we are playing on 5.2. Fizz is the only champion that's disabled, and rework Tristana is up and available for later in the day. Not going to be relevant now. Do want to highlight 2 exhausts on the side of Giants. I think that's very important to note once Nick and Pinoy start to hit those team fights and start to jump in. If Pepinero and Rydell can get them down on the respective opponents, could go a long way to helping Giants win some of those crucial objective battles.
And Giants know Gambit is on the top side here with their dual lane because they saw Eddie. He's moving down towards his blue buff here, just trying to annoy a little bit. But you do have Smite for Frederick, so it shouldn't be a problem for Giants picking this one up.
Yeah, and this is again, Eddie has gone for the invade, has gone for the harass every single time that a lane swap has taken place. He did it last week as well. Yeah. And it's just something that we see him trying often. Early level 2 for Cabochard. So going to clear out those Krugs up in the top lane. And going to back, not using his CP yet.
And Giants actually failed to get a freeze down in the bottom lane because they were running into the blue buff to see if Gambit was starting there with Diamond, of course, to try and stop him, but he wasn't there. In the end, you didn't get the freeze because you went in the lane at 155, and that means Cabochard now and this Morgana can actually run down to the bottom lane and stand in a 1v2. Just ward up your tri-bush just behind your tower so you can see if they're moving in to try and dive you with 4 guys. Otherwise, you just sit there and you farm for yourself, and you actually see him now go in, place the first ward. He's going to spot Frederick and World Leap, so he knows all 4 guys from Giants are on this bottom side.
Well, let's see how Gambit decides to react. We just caught Nick taking a bit of punishment from Pipinero. Early advantage to Giants, using the numbers to their favor, although Diamond may want to contest this one. Smite goes out, ends up being secured by Giants. Diamond wasn't even in range. So early advantage to Giants. Frederick's going to be able to peel back and secure his own red buff.
Yeah, and Gambit just got 3 buffed right here with Giants starting their own blue. And Diamond actually taking a very greedy jungle route, clearing all the camps, the Raptor as well, before he walked over to the blue buff. Meaning for him that he won't be able to get that one. And now 3 buffs from Giants. This is typically why you see people invade on the enemy buffs in a lane swap. So in this case, it would have been Gambit invading on the blue buff of Giants to secure that one, and then you take your own red buff after. So you don't have this situation where you lose 3 buffs. It doesn't matter too much on this current patch because their jungle camps give so much XP compared to just the buff itself. But if you, let's just go a year back, it would have been devastating for Gambit.
Well, for a team that's 1-5, and for Diamond, who's simply not lived up to his pedigree in 2015, let's see how he decides to bounce back. We did just catch that public poll. Some faith in Gambit, 61% to 39. And with the lane swap and the fact that Giants had all of that pressure in the jungle, it's going to allow Pinoy, Edward, and potentially Diamond to get some damage on this top turret. This may also reset the wave, so let's see how they continue to play out this lane swap. Yeah,
Giants actually mistimed their back here. You want to reach that wave at the tower if you're recalling with 2 or 3 guys. In this case, you have the Lee Sin, obviously Nami and Kassadin already at the wave, so they actually lost out on 2.5 waves here because they recalled a bit too slow. And again, that's why obviously you send their support with your top lane to make sure he doesn't get tower dived. But Gambit can be fairly happy denying them this much farm. And obviously you have the 1-on-1 in the bottom lane where Cabochard is going to do more than fine on this Morgana, just sitting and trying to last it with his pool. Let Adri be a bit annoying, but get the XP you need.
Yeah, we need to keep contrasting Werlib and Cabochard. How are they farming? What do their levels look like? So far, there's nothing in it in the first 5 minutes. Pinoy with all of that solo time. Some good damage in Adri, but being replied back to Cabochard as well. Really using that range of Caitlyn to his advantage. And as we're talking about, 32 CS to the 37 of Pinoy. Pinoy walking towards that first big item spike, most likely going to be a BF sword. However, there's a couple of different build paths you can go with that Callista, as we've seen by a number of different players.
Yeah, you really, I mean, if you can go back with 1,550 gold, getting that BF sword is by far the best. It's a big item spike for you. And then you go Hurricane after, because you want to have that one for your mid-game. That attack speed is very important. It makes your jump animation a lot smoother once you have 30% attack speed, making it harder for the enemy to predict where you're jumping when you are kiting around. You're going to have to see, I mean, you need 55 CS if you don't miss a single one to have enough for BF sword. And we can actually see right now, there's 1,400 gold for Pinoy, so he should be able to farm it out, get that BF sword on his first back if he decides to go for that one.
Let's see how he decides to itemize. We've also seen Blade of the Rune King built over in North America. Sure. So there's a couple of different routes that he could go for. We have once again caught that middle lane. Pepinero doing a good job of harassing Nick, but it's not costing Nick much CS for the time being.
No, and Gambit is keeping this 2v2 lane because they want to try and take down this tower. Knowing that Cabochard can hold his own in the bottom lane, you can take a tower now and then swap Pinoy back down to the bottom lane, and then you actually have a 1-tower advantage through the lane swap. And oh, a lot of damage onto Riot.
Oh, so much. That's a flash for the auto attack connects. It's not enough. Pinoy with a very aggressive flash. He tweeted earlier that he's expanded his champion pool and he's playing this Kalista very, very aggressive into Giants. Not going to result in the kill, and summon a spell blown.
Nice little damage on Whirlleap as well. Remember, he has no jump yet on this Kassadin. But to go back to your Blade of the Ruined King, I would be very surprised if you build it, because you would normally get that if you're gonna like one-on-one a top laner who's fairly immobile. So you have your slow from the Cutlass first, then you're slow from the Rend. Kassadin will be able to jump away from him, so I'm not expecting Blade to come in from Pinoy. And Pepanero, the standard roam we often see, he's been having a good job just one-on-one there against the Zed. I mean, Azir wins nearly every one-on-one matchup, so a good start for him, and a blue buff as well.
Yeah, Nick doing okay to stay relevant, still a small amount of CS behind. Slight difference between Cabochon and Whirlip with all of
Pinoy
the pressure.
going Blade.
All of the pressure that Pinoy and Edward were putting onto Whirlip in that top lane. You can see that Kassadin slowly trying to claw it back. Early Cutlass, I agree with you, it's a little odd, but it synergizes really well with the kit. The attack speed, it's a little bit of AD, and of course that additional kiting power against fairly mobile champions from Giants.
Yeah, but that's the problem, because if you slow down a Kassadin, he laughs at you and he jumps in your face again with his ulti, so he won't care about it. And the rest of Giants' composition has a lot of kiting potential, which means it's going to be harder and harder for Pinoy to get in range with his Blade here, with the active at least, because obviously we have an Azir and a Caitlyn who's just going to stay very, very far back with their damage. I'm a little bit surprised about this one. He is staying in this one-on-one against Whirlleap, which is what you do when you get Cutlass as your first item.
Oh!
And I guess he didn't want to flash.
There were so many Rend stacks, and I'm not going to lie, I did not quite expect that pop. That was around 400 odd damage with that last auto attack. Pinoy, easy one-on-one against Whirlip. You were talking about the kiting power the Cutlass offered you?
Yeah.
It was demonstrated.
True. I mean, a pre-level 6 Kassadin. Again, if a Whirlip, he should have been able to predict that damage, or at least close to it, and say, I'm going to play it safely and just flash away. But actually stayed in, and now first blood for Pinoy should be a very early Blade then for him.
Well, we'll see how quickly he can accelerate his item. Again, Pinoy really showing up in this early game, and Whirlip, more questions to be asked.
Yeah.
He's demonstrated he plays Jax at an LCS winning level, but he's been unable to really impress amongst the rest of the games. And a lot of pressure on him, but let's also be fair. Kassadin is always going to scale and is always going to be relevant the longer this game goes. Gambit, only 200 gold in the lead, but they've got an aggregate CS advantage, I think, if you
still no
look
level 6
the
of Whirlleap, and Diamond is here now, forcing him back again. And this basically explains the Cutlass for Gambit or the Blade, because they want to keep Pinoy in a one-on-one situation, and he gets a big XP advantage. Obviously, while Cabochon is just sitting with Eddie in the bottom lane and has no problems farming. So they're simply doing this to shut down the Kassadin, not putting this Morgana. We talked about how Morgana into Kassadin, it's very hard to deny Kassadin farm with his magic shield and your lack of overall damage then from the Morgana. So that's why they're doing this Blade of the Ruined King first and keeping Pinoy to this one-on-one Whirlip, who is now level 6. So he shouldn't die again. And we might see a bit of a fight here. Frederick and Diamond both towards the top lane.
And the other thing that we didn't take note of is the fact that Pinoy, for the longest time, has not had the support of Edward, so not going to get that bonus damage from Sentinel on the W, because of course Edward has been chilling out and roaming around just a little around the map. Pinoy also maxing the Rend, so trying to get those stacks up as quickly as possible. Let's see if Frederick can make something happen. Riftwalk available for Whirlip. No flash for Pinoy. How patient is Frederick going to be?
Have to wait a little bit still before this wave is pushed all the way down. Remember, Pinoy doesn't have any help up in this lane, because Diamond already left, and now they're going in.
Oh, they're in trouble. Sonic Wave kicks the flash, the hop, the kickback is to safety.
And the
Frederick's in trouble. Rend will give him a kill. And the Dark Binding also connects to Whirlip. I don't think it's going to be enough just yet. Flash away. Riftwalk should be up in a moment or two. There is a flash available for Diamond if he wants to go in. There's the flash, the flag, the drag. Whirlip's up. He's going to get taken down. Dark Binding goes wide. Nick gets in range, but not enough for an assist. And Gambit, 2 more kills on the board. Now Nick, with an overextension, takes some damage, but he's just fine.
Yeah, big place in the top lane here. Not sure what happened for Whirlip. He went in, the force pulse went the other way for him. So he didn't actually manage to connect a slow, and then Pinoy managed to jump away, and obviously just get kicked back into his own turret, killing Frederick under this. This is sitting again. So notice how well it goes in. Force Pulse goes the wrong way. This can happen if you smart cast actually. And now Pinoy obviously under the turret with Frederick going way too aggressive, wants to slow, actually missed. And obviously Cabochard coming in with the teleport. Gambit turning it around. And we talk about how Giants have to win the early game. It's not looking good right now.
No, but they do have some scaling headroom. Let's see what sort of map presence Gambit can put down. Red buff picked up for Pinoy. He's behind on CS, but a 12-minute Blade of the Rune King. That's a great pickup.
It is for sure, and yeah, as you said here, Giants, they have the scaling comp. Late game, they're gonna be great with Azir, with Caitlyn and Kassadin. Had it been on any other team but Giants. Because again, the late game shot calling we have seen, it's been the biggest problem for them against Rocket. That's why they end up losing it. And I really want to see if they've improved it now. A week more of practice. I mean, the more you play against these LCS teams when you come from the Challenger Series, the more you learn every single week how you get punished for mistakes and how to adapt to it here. So I really want to see how Giants can play the late game if they get to that point, because they have the comp for it.
You're talking about adapting. Giants last week against Fnatic were able to predict Reignover's Rengar ganks. The first 2 or 3, and they countered them relatively effectively. But Gambit this week, they've pulled out the top lane Morgana. They've pulled out Kalista for the first time. And I think they've caught Giants somewhat off guard. So Dragon's going to be started by Gambit. 13 minutes on the clock. Very easily secured.
Oh, pulled the
Edward gets thrown in with Fate's Call. Flash from Audrey. And they're going to burn the cooldown from Pinoy just to try set something up. But nothing comes of it. And Gambit still maintain their 2,000 gold lead.
Yeah, just a very simple Dragon call by Gambit here. You saw obviously Whirlip sitting and farming at his own turret. And even actually 2 other guys from Giants showed themselves, I believe, at the ward Gambit had placed here around that blue buff. So easy call for them, forcing the flash from Audrey, and instantly Diamond looking towards the bottom lane. They want to dive. Yeah,
and take a look at the itemization. This is the first time we're seeing him upgrade to the Stalker's Blade on Jarvan. This split, it's the second game out of 7. Gambit have got the numbers advantage, and here comes Diamond. Cataclysm is available if he wants it, but there is some support on the way from Frederick. And Diamond actually playing somewhat confused. He's running forwards, he's running backwards, deciding against it.
Gambit doesn't have the deep wards here to actually go for this dive, knowing there's a high chance of Frederick being nearby. So unless they took the current wards they have just inside the jungle of Giants and moved them further in, then they couldn't go for this dive here. So smart enough, they're just waiting around, see if Freddy showed himself anywhere. Let's say he showed him around the mid lane, then they could have gone for it, and that's why you saw the hesitation. So smart enough as well, backing away. We know Pinoy can handle himself with his blade, and 2 kills this early on.
Take a look at the items completed for Gambit already. Hourglass for Cabochard's Morgana. Blade for Pinoy. Getting closer for Nick as well. So there's some very scary items completed already.
And it's a smart little trick by Pinoy here. You saw the rend stacks onto Audrey, but he ran out of range. So Pinoy just hit a minion instead next to him, and then he popped the rend. Because it actually has slightly longer range, the damage you take, than the activation range from Pinoy here. So smart enough, getting a bit of poke and a tower as well for Gambit.
Let's see what Eddie can do. Flash, Death Sentence connects, he predicts Audrey's movement. The box goes down and Audrey's caught out of place. A relatively easy kill for Pinoy and Edward. And just to quickly mention, those Caitlyn eyes from the trap stuck on Pinoy. It is just an observer-related bug. We will get that resolved in a moment or two. 3,000 gold in favor of Gambit, 4 kills to 0. This is a very strong early game, and it's been carried by individual performances. Crepo said it on the analyst desk. Pinoy, an AD carry who's mechanically good with potential, he's really showing up in this game.
Yeah, especially that gank 2v1 where he managed to get a kill on Frederick was huge for him, and obviously the one-on-one kill with this Cutlass first item, but now we're going to see a fight here. Face shake from Riot. No, he actually had a wall placed. They're going for it.
While the double bubble connects, Pinoy forced to flash away. The wall knocks him back. Edward gets thrown from Fate's Call. Lantern tries to get Pinoy out to safety. It's not going to be enough. First kill on the board for Giants as they turn their attention to Edward. And the Riftwalk from Whirlip. They continue to chase him down to 100 hit points. Death Sentence connects. It's not going to be enough, and that's a kill on the board for a Kassadin that was shut down early. Overconfidence from Pinoy and Edward.
Yeah, and this really is, again, the Gambit thing. The problem they've had the last few weeks is they do so many things correct and it looks great, and then we have these random things where they just end up dying. Eddie and Pinoy, they walked through the jungle while Diamond was far away. Even Nick was far away. He wasn't even in the mid lane at the time, so there was no backup. And because Giants had already placed a good defensive pink ward, they saw it, Riot set it up beautifully, and then Giants pick up 2 kills. And suddenly, getting a kill on Azir will really help him. And this is all they need. Slowly claw your way back in here. Get to that late game point. We even see Avarice Blade for Atri. So he's trying to rush towards the 2-item spike on the Caitlyn here, where he can become relevant again. And Giants are not done yet.
Yeah, you've got this really interesting sort of change. CS advantage for Adri, despite the fact that Pinoy's been under pressure and applying pressure, is falling behind. We'll get to that in a second. Here's the replay.
Look at the minimap here. Diamond is at his own red buff, and the rest of Gambit is in their base. And then Pinoy, Eddie walks in by themselves. Nice little deny here from the wall from Pepenero onto the lantern of Eddie. And then just 2 kills from Giants. Nice little setup by them, but also just too aggressive by Gambit.
Yeah, simply did not have the vision to make that play, and they get punished for it. Gambit now pushing in the middle wave. Look at Nick. Split pushing the side lane up in the top, and Cabochard actually pushing on the bottom. Frederick doesn't connect with the Sonic Wave, so Diamond with an easy escape. And look at the CS differences is what I was touching to just before the replay. Cabochard with a strong 40 CS advantage. Adri, a very small lead, but of course, Pinoy with those 3 kills to his name is obviously going to be in a very comfortable position. Second item, Hurricane. So if memory serves, it's the same build that Doublelift had 2 weeks ago, but I'm not 100% confident on that. Pepenero forced to flash out of the Soul Shackles, going to continue to play aggressive. Here comes Frederick. Sonic Wave connects. Hourglass still up for Cabochard. Is he going to use it? No. All too easy. And again, overextending.
Yeah, 1 ward placed in the jungle, not even very far in, so he has no chance of actually seeing who's coming down to the bottom lane. Another kill now for Giants, but tower did go down because Pinoy is so strong on this Kalista. He can just move to whatever lane he wishes and take down whatever he wants. And also with the Hurricane being completed very soon, it's going to give him a lot of wave clear to just keep pushing down these waves. Obviously, Whirlip is not really able to do too much in terms of defending other than just lasting under the turret. Pepenero and Adri has to be there together to provide some instant wave clear if they want to stop Gambit from taking turrets. Or they can, of course, just keep walking around and killing them.
Well, let's see what Gambit does from here on out. This is the point where I get worried for the team. They've got a lead. It's not massive. They're giving up a few kills here and there, but most importantly, with 3 towers down, how do Gambit play the vision in Giants' jungle, and how are they going to decide to push this map? They've been trying the 1-3-1, or 1-2-1 as it were, recently. And we need to see what Gambit decides to do. For the moment, Dragon's up, so that seems to be the focus.
Yeah, and Giants not in a position to fight for this one. Gambit does have 2 pink wards already being placed there. Giants right now should just try and take this mid turret and trade it for the Dragon, because you don't want to go in a straight team fight, and that's exactly what they're doing here. 4 guys sitting in the mid lane. No teleport by Whirlip. If Gambit looks for a fight here, it's going to be 5 versus 4.
So a lot of damage onto the tower, but not even taken down. Gambit were able to 2-man the Dragon and still defend their mid turret. That's a very strong play.
Yeah, but still, Giants knowing they couldn't fight. And that's a thing they've learned now, because we saw in some of the other games they've played where they would still run into a lost Dragon fight, basically try and take it, end up falling even further behind, and then the game would just be over. Here they tried to take the mid turret, and now they go straight to top lane here. What they could have done instead was send just 1 guy mid lane, let's say the Caitlyn, and put the rest of the guys to the top lane, fast push it in, and try and get this tower down. They're still going for it now, but now Gambit has the time to actually regroup and come up and defend it.
Well, let's see what happens. We did see Ace in the hole catching onto Pinoy. He's decided to go aggressive. Pepenero as well as Adri able to pick up the kill. Top lane is defended. Bubble does not connect. Now let's see what Gambit can do. They've got a numbers advantage top. They've caught the Dark Binding. Whirlip just gets melted. Gambit reply. That's 1 for 1. And they defend the top turret, while Pinoy got a lot of damage on that inner turret on the bottom. That's down to below half.
Yeah, again, Giants here, first trying to push the mid lane, then going for the top lane. Just a little bit too slow for them, allowing Gambit to take Dragon and go back and actually defend their lanes here. And then trading 1 for 1, Pinoy. Second time we see someone from Gambit die in the bottom lane, where they have 0 wards in the enemy jungle. And that's again why Pepenero now can actually push in, take a tower for himself. He's getting very fit on this Azir, and that's going to be scary the longer we get into the game.
There's really been no pressure on Pepenero. And, we were actually touching in the pre-game. Tower secured here for Gambit. They're way out of position. Look for the Dark Bunny. It's predicted! Cabochard connects with Adri. Killing Tick goes to Cabochard. That was a good shot. And at least Giants, they're keeping the gold relevant. They've closed the lead. And we talked in pregame how important Pepenero was going to be for Giants. 301, 220 CS. He has the potential to swing team fights.
Strong words of the potential here for Pepinero. And Giants actually managed to defend their mid lane. Again, it's a bit of a weird game.
It's really awkward.
Like, the mid tower going down with Adri and Teleport obviously coming in from Whirly, sacrificing Adri for the tower. If you know you can then defend, it's okay, because it's better obviously to get a tower than one kill. But Gambit, after that kill, two of the guys went back into the jungle. Nick went down to the bottom lane to start pushing in. Instead of just going 5 mid, with Adri being dead, that's most of the wave clear from Giants, at least the instant one. Try and force down that tower here, push your lead. You had no reason to not punish Giants for making a very greedy play in the mid lane.
Well, unfortunately, Gambit may not always be aware of when they can push their lead. This is a primary example of one of those scenarios. They do regain that small gold buff that they have. We haven't touched on the items in just in a little while. Diamond working towards that Aegis as his second item against all of the AP from Kassadin and Azir. I think that's particularly smart. Hurricane was completed by Pinoy. Adri's hit his 2-item spike as well with Shiv plus Eye-Edge. Still no Greaves, so we most likely are not going to be seeing Giants pushing too far. Except Whirlib, he's been caught out of position. He goes straight into everybody from Gambit. He hops over the wall twice and gets dropped by Pinoy once more.
Yeah, and Pepinero is forced to sit in this bottom lane defending against Nick. He's the only guy who can really hold him off here with the Outlast already completed, sorry. So Gambit can actually put some pressure on this Baron, force Giants to come in and check them like they do right here and get another kill.
Death Sentence connect. Now it's Frederick's turn to hop over the wall. He seems to be able to get away. We do see Nick split pushing in the bottom lane. Frederick thinking about a steal, but Pinoy, with all of that Ren damage, will easily be able to secure it.
Exactly. That's why Gambit can actually go for this Baron and just have Pinoy stack it up and destroy it again. It's like 1,001, maybe even 2,000.
Oh, not again. Is this really number 3? It's going to be the third
one. This time Sonic Wave came in. Gambit's still staying around. Frederick.
Oh, Frederick, he dodges one bullet only to say, yeah, sorry guys, I'll give you another one. Giants give up another kill in the pit. Gambit are going to be able to secure this Baron unless a godlike defense from Whirlib comes into play. Let's see if they peel.
Yeah, keep in mind there's not too much armor on Gambit, so they're taking a lot of damage here from this Baron. And that's why they're now forced to back away as soon as Giants made a move. But there was quite a lot of kills being picked up. And Nick got a lot of damage on the bot lane turret as well. So Gambit for now, finally actually staying together, not being caught out by Giants, and randomly give up some kills.
Ironically, it's Giants that's doing that. Frederick manages to sidestep the death sentence, only to walk into a Jarvan flag and drag. Yeah. Yes, it didn't result in anything further. Gambit did not manage to secure the Baron, but they're giving more gold, they're giving more kills over to Gambit.
It was a bit of a tough situation. You almost had to do it. I mean, you need to go and see if they're starting it, because again, you know the Kalista can use her rend on it and just destroy it in the very end if she's just left to hit it here. So he actually made the right call. It was just, yeah, you know, you have to die for it because, again, you're falling behind already. And actually, look at the side of Giants. No boots, as you mentioned earlier, for the Caitlyn. No boots on Azir either. So not looking towards any mobility. Just want to rush straight for their items, the core items. Want to try and like get to this 3-item spike on both the carries before they put any focus on mobility. So it means, in a potential team fight, Cabochard, if he flashes onto them, he'll be able to follow them with his ulti very, very easily. And just stun them, win the fight for Gambit.
Yeah, and Gambit are one dragon buff away from their mobility. That's also going to give them more tools. But we knew Giants were looking to late game. We knew Giants were looking to scale. Their composition signaled that. Kassadin, Azir, and Caitlyn. But the scary thing is, they're now giving up 3 dragon buffs, 2,000 gold down. They're not as far behind as you might think for this stage in the game.
Yeah, but again, that's still what we see on this new map. We keep talking about how Dragon doesn't give the global gold any longer, so we don't see the same kind of goal leads we used to see if we look back just at Worlds, where you could be like 10, 15k ahead by 30 minutes if you were really destroying the enemy team. But the problem for Giants in this game was really the lane swap itself, where they failed to get a freeze in the bottom lane and then didn't even go and try and dive onto Cabochard and like deny him some farm. So he was actually left farming on his own while Whirleap had a lot harder time getting a bit late to the top lane. He was denied a lot of farm from Pinoy. He even died to him. So he fell very far behind. And you kind of lost the whole Caitlyn advantage, because when you play Caitlyn, you have to win the laning phase. That's why she's so strong, and then obviously the late game points. So because the lane swap was swapped around and Gambit actually won it, it really meant that Caitlyn pick didn't pay off, at least not for now. And obviously the Kassadin got set further behind than he should have.
So we need to see how Giants play this late game. You've touched on the early game, the laning phase, and we've touched on the fact that Gambit would maintain a lead. But Gambit gave up their lead last week when they were playing against H2K. They also earned up a lead, and really Gambit were only able to win team fights that H2K made mistakes in. Giants, in a similar vein, were even with Roccat at around the 25-minute mark. About 1,000 golds separated the teams, and it was Dragon fights that lost the game for Giants. We've hit this point where one cataclysmic battle will determine a Baron, will determine inner turrets, and all of that map pressure. So no room for error for either of these teams.
No rooms at all, especially again, because you're playing to avoid the last place in the LCS. Giants obviously been losing 4 games in a row now. Slowly MYM and Giants, Gambit, getting closer and closer, 1-on-5 both teams. So it's going to be huge for Gambit to take this win here. And again, still no boots for Atri. Going for another beef. So again, he wants that 3-item spike before he goes into any mobility, because that's where he can start become strong and actually useful in team fights.
Yeah, and interesting to see that it's a BF sword instead of the likes of a Last Whisper. Albeit there's not a massive amount of armor along the Gambit side.
This is fine, yeah.
Fairly smart itemization.
Going BT, and that's good.
Giants still happy to farm, still happy to play slow. I do want to echo the sentiment you just mentioned, Officio. If Giants lose this game, they will be tied with Gambit at 2 wins and 5 losses down at the bottom of the table. But we're a long way away from that. Both teams playing very passive, playing very safe. Nick toying with the idea of a rush. Keep in mind Hourglass and a fully stacked rod for Whirlib. Tools are there for Whirlib to survive, and he's got Flash. Let's see what Nick can do.
I think he's 3 levels above him, so he's just going to go in first. Notice what Nick did here. He didn't pop his ulti instantly. He went in with a few auto attacks. You can even use your Blade active, and then you can force Whirlib to either use his Hourglass too early and then ult him after, or just force him to flash away like Nick did here for himself. I'm looking at the build here from Capuchard, and he's going like full AP, so full mid-game snowball. I want as much damage as possible. So he's actually sacrificing cooldown reduction, which you normally see as a very, very strong stat on Morgana, because the more bindings you can land in a fight here. Obviously, the Black Shield coming in as well, going to be huge on Pinoy to just make him unkillable for Giants. So sacrificing the cooldown reduction to go for as much AP as possible on the Morgana here. Wouldn't be surprised to see some cooldown reduction coming in later, though, from Capuchard.
So the option is available. You do see, as we mentioned, still no boots for Adri, no upgrade for Pepinero. Playing the farm game, they're falling slightly further behind, 3,000 gold. Dragon's going to be up in 2 minutes. Vision, sorely lacking actually for Gambit. They don't really have deep wards in Giants jungle to play aggressively. And it just feels like Gambit are happy to keep biding their time until the next objective.
I think Gambit realized they were being caught out a bit too much and said, we already have all the dragons. We have the goal lead. We can just wait for this 5th dragon. It's not going to be too much time for Giants to scale up, and that's why they're just staying back and playing it extremely safe. But they got to secure that 5th dragon then when it spawns, and then start closing out the game. Otherwise, we're getting very, very close to this late game point of Giants. And honestly, that might end up biting Gambit in the butt.
So teleport is available for Whirlib. He's in the bottom lane. Gambit have got positioning to get some damage on this inner turret, but Giants have actually managed to make it back in time. You see the locket thrown down there from Diamond, and Nick, he's backed away. So a few auto attacks from Gambit. Nothing further secured. And just this stalemate continues to grow. 1 minute before Dragon, look at the vision. Neither team has got real control of the pit, and it feels like Giants are more invested in this next engage.
Yeah, definitely looking a lot stronger. No BT yet, though, completed for Adri on his side. And no wards being placed by Giants yet, so they might end up actually face-checking onto Gambit. What we can do, if you are this far behind and you don't feel like you have to fight yet, because again, the 4th dragon, yes, okay, you have the ticking time bomb thing, but you can still wait for next one. Instead, Look at the wave top lane here. Go up with your Caitlyn. Take that wave in. Get a tower for yourself. Clear the pink wards Gambit has around the Baron. Set up your own wards here. Buy a bit more time. And try and trade this dragon. If you don't want to fight for it, that is. For at least something to your team. But it looks like Giants are actually staying around it here. Looking for the first team fight of the game. But Gambit is in a good position to start it.
Deficio, Giants don't want a whole lot of anything at the moment. They have been playing so reactive and so defensive over the last few minutes. Still no boots. 2,000 gold unspent for Adri. I don't know about this fight. It's against a Smite and a Rend. Pinoy keeps stacking up those arrows. It's going to be available. Idle caught up by the Dark Binding. Tidal Wave thrown down. It's just going to be sidestepped by Gambit. I don't know why you tried to steal that, Frederick. He's looking to escape. Flashes over the wall. He's going to safeguard away. They've traded the Dragon for minions, most likely taking that tower down. There's another wave will peel on, but Nick looking to respond. Gambit get the 4th Dragon of the game. Should be able to trade 1 tower for 1 in this scenario.
So we'll get 1 tower at least for Giants here. Didn't want to try and go for the aggressive play. Actually, the tower won't even go down.
Not even.
They don't gain anything for this at all. They tried to steal it against a Kalista with Rend and obviously the Smite, which could come in from Diamond. Now Baron started by Gambit here. Giants is nearby. They're going to try and stop them. They should get a kill on Eddie.
Edward is low. Werlip's going to jump in. That's the first kill of the fight, but Werlip forced away. It's in reply for Frederick. Now Cabashot is in trouble. He flashes over to the blue buff area of Giants behind enemy territory. Soul Shackles has been burned. They've traded 1 kill for 1 and teleport away from Cabashot. Pipinero predicted the wrong direction. No knock-up. But no Baron secured for either team, and Nick with some damage on the inhibitor turret. This is a very strange set of exchanges.
Yeah, and now we have Gambit on 4 dragons, so they can again just wait for the next one. They don't have to make any aggressive plays until that dragon arrives. And Giants will actually be able to... You see the Baron being started here. Meanwhile, you can see Nick in the bottom lane. He's pushing it in. And Gambit is now trying to force Giants to come teleport. Willip comes up here so Nick can take a tower. But they're lucky trading 1 for 1 because Giants is here with all 5. Diamond is in the mid lane. So again, it's very split up. It seems to be more like individual plays and saying, let's go Baron now. And then the rest of the team is like, I'm not too sure about it. They don't really want to follow. And then we get this kind of messy game we have going on between Giants and Gambit.
So Giants playing defensive, playing passive. Finally, we see that Bloodthirster completed for Adri and Tier 1 boots. Pepinero's got Void Staff, also Tier 1 boots. But Giants, they've made no indication they want to challenge for a win. They're 4,000 gold down. Gambit, on the other hand, feels like they're using the solo queue playbook to play this game out. Pinoy sort of solo carrying. Cabashad getting some great solo plays. But as a unit, they've not particularly been on the same page all that often. So a few minutes to go until this next dragon respawns. Nick, 2-level advantage over Werlip. Should be able to interrupt the recall if he wants to, decides against it. No vision, so wouldn't have had the tools available. Okay, let's see Deficio duel.
Recall.
Why does he not want to fight? Tell me, tell me.
Because
why do they not want to do anything?
So his team is basically pinging the rest of Giants coming through the river here, so Nick didn't really want to go 1v5. He is a strong Zed, but he hasn't really been able to do anything the entire game long, other than actually just push and take a few towers. Pinoy's down the bottom lane, so Giants now should finally be able to get a tower in this top lane. At least get some global goal for themselves, but it's going to be, again, all about their next dragon.
I'm at a loss for words, Deficio. Giants finally making a push up onto the map with some shoes on their feet. They might want to make some aggressive plays. Gambit pushing in the mid lane. Giants pushing in the top lane. We have the makings of a base race. If you don't know how to outplay your opponents, just try out-rotate them. A Zia turret thrown down very early from Pepinero. And we do see it's actually Gambit with the advantage. They've taken the inhibitor turret in the bottom lane, forced back. Werlip's been able to defend the inhibitor, and now we do have a very brief pause.
Like Pinoy here. Small problem for himself.
Deficio, I think you're very silent because I think you have to be as confused as I am.
Just a little bit.
35 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
Giants finally have some ability, finally have some boots, finally feel strong enough to fight. And they managed to catch Gambit because Gambit are not grouped either. But it's Giants that come away worse for wear. They lose an inhibitor turret in that trade.
Yeah, and I mean, again, For Giants in this game, it's just been falling behind in the lane swap and then basically just waiting to lose in some way. It's a bit harsh to say, but they haven't tried to make any plays around the map other than picking off Gambit a few times in the early game to kind of come back in this game here. And instead of just been happy sitting and farming and let Gambit pick up the dragons. That might become the big problem now when the next one spawns.
Yep.
If Giants isn't there in time to ward that one up correctly, so you can set up this Azir and Caitlyn to stand back, kite a little bit, use the long range you have to win that fight, then Gambit will pick up that dragon and should be able to close out the game with the buff because Baron is going to go down right after, and then suddenly you have this Gambit team on steroids who's just going to roll over you.
Yeah, this is something that, we haven't seen too... Well, actually, this is what we were expecting, really, from the game. Gambit have the ability to get a lead early, but not particularly strong at pushing their advantage, not particularly strong at using it to their lead. The last 15, 20 minutes, they've been caught out. They've been solo. Giants, on the other hand, as you mentioned, maybe not waiting to lose, just maybe not playing to win. It's not been a proactive play style. It has been reactive. It's been defensive. I think they're so invested in late game, they just forgot everything else.
Completely.
Screw the first 30 minutes. We'll just chill, take our time, stay on our side of the jungle. I don't like water, don't like the river, so just don't go there. That's how we find ourselves.
The worst thing is, it might actually end up working for them. Because now we are the late game.
Yep.
As long as they can win that next dragon fight, it might actually end up being okay for Giants. And we're going to have this situation where a team should have been able to close out 5, 10 minutes ago maybe, at least push it even harder. And they haven't. They're just...
The dragon fight,
caught out.
The dragon fight that cost Giants last week against Roccat was around 25, 26 minutes.
Yeah.
This time it might be 37, 38 minutes, but it's going to be a similar scenario. One big team fight, and with exposed bases now, one down to inhibitor turret, one exposed inhibitor, it's scary. You can see on the scoreboard just below you, 2 upgraded greater stealth totems. We've not seen too many of them, despite the fact that I think we were maybe, we thought we might see more of them once they were patched in 5.2. Wards available for Gambit, but they're not using it effectively.
I mean, all they've been doing for the last... what they've been doing for the last 5 minutes around Baron has been okay, because they've been baiting out the Baron, got a few kills from it. The problem is as soon as Giants were like, okay, we're just not going to care, we're just going to go in and just slowly push away, Gambit just completely gave it up, went back to their own base. So yeah, they haven't been using their wards correctly. We've seen many, many times where Gambit were pushing a side lane, didn't have a single ward in the enemy jungle, again got caught out and died, delayed everything. It's the exact same thing we saw last week from them. I'm surprised because it should be easy enough as a team just to have your mindset saying, okay, buy more wards, we have to play more careful, we have to again get on these deep wards when we have the lead so we don't end up falling behind or at least delaying the game for such a long time.
All right, so guys, the refs are on stage. They're busy investigating a problem with Pinoy regarding some damage dealt in-game. His client is busy being restarted, so while they're investigating that, we'll keep chatting about the game just a little bit. I think everybody's feeling the awkwardness a little bit, the patient, the passive play. And I think it is also a testament of where these teams find themselves in the table. They're both down, potentially being in that position where they are number 10. Number 10th team auto-relegated at the end of the split. Yeah. And next week is the halfway point. Next week, at the end of Thursday, 50% of the games have been played. And it is so difficult to start clawing those wins up. We heard, I think it was Nick or Pinoy saying earlier that if the first win last week could start the snowball for them to pick up more wins. They've started well in this game, but they're not ending particularly convincingly.
No, exactly. Same problems. Still slight improvement from Gambit compared to week 1, week 2. So we have seen their success from Leviathan, the coach coming in. Obviously, used to be the Alliance coach last year. So slowly, but it's not there yet. It's far from good enough from what we expect from a team like Gambit. And it's fun because this is actually the way they won IM Cologne. Yeah. Same kind of style, just random team fights everywhere, no wards. We even had 2 games against CLG where they got to 55 minutes. They won one of them through a base race with a Jax, and the other one they lost because WF was just unkillable. So they've been here before, going full late game and be weaker and still try and pull it out. And that's again why I'm surprised as a team you don't go back and say, what are we doing wrong? Why can't we close the game here? Yes, okay, they have the dragons, And we might end up sitting here saying, well, Gambit won, they got 5 dragons, that was great.
Yeah, but Gambit lost to Copenhagen Wolves because of bad late game calls.
Very true.
So there needs to be some learning. There needs to be a point where, last week they were in the base of the Copenhagen Wolves and said, we'll stick around, we'll keep pushing. Wolves respawned, killed them, and then the Wolves went on to win the game. There was a 59-minute match. We're at 35 minutes in this one. So the potential for Epic is in there. I do think Pinoy has to be called out. His Kallista's been phenomenal. He's got a bunch of solo kills. Mechanically, he's doing the right things. And it does look like we're back in game. So with some luck, everything's been resolved. And we do find ourselves with that exposed inhibitor. Hey, what's up, guys? Just needed to see us one moment left.
All right, so just want again, you mentioned the greatest stealth totems coming in. And that's again, so Diamond actually didn't go for Sidestone because he was going to go for that stealth totem. But we're just going to see Giants now start the Baron. Pinoy and Diamond are very far away. Giants just got a free Baron.
So, Giants, after losing an inhibitor turret and securing a top inner turret, now have the tools they need to push the map. They have not done it
Dragon
at all.
in 130 as well. Baron buff Giants. Death cap should be completed for the Kassadin as well before this fight. QSS coming in for Archery, so Nick can't go for him any longer. He can't go for Kassadin. He cannot go for the Azir either with the hourglasses, meaning there's very few targets now for Nick in this late game team fight. So Giants should go push up these waves here and be ready for this Dragon. Get a few pink wards. Sell that Dorn's Blade as well on your AD carry. You're going to need that pink ward now for this next Dragon team fight. Get the vision around it and take that Dragon away from Gambit, and suddenly you're actually looking like you're going to win this game.
So, Deficio with Baron buff, and you said that very passive, not playing to win, but playing to not lose. Let's see if it's going to be enough for Giants to take on Gambit. 1 minute, less than a minute before that Dragon spawns. Not a lot of vision being placed down here from the side of Giants, but they've managed to push the wave up middle, which should allow them to close onto that Dragon when it spawns up. And we'll see if they've got the timing.
Look at their damage already now. Already, maybe 40 minutes in, but look at the damage from a late game Azir onto Eddie here. 2 hits from the Soldier.
Oh,
50%. Whoa, Pinoy as well dropping down.
Pinoy zoned away. He does have Bloodthirster, but not a lot of minions to heal off. And with that Baron buffed Siege minion, Giants are going to take another turret. This is the second inner turret in a few minutes. And they're going to get their first touch of the Dragon.
Look at Diamond here. He's going to try and steal it. There's one pink ward for Riot to try and deny vision in the Dragon pit itself from Diamond here, but he can obviously put down the flag and then try and jump in to take it. He's going in. Oh, he didn't get it.
Does not manage to pick it up. Flashes out of the pit. Now we see Diamond is out of position if Giants were to push down a turret. Frederick chasing onto Diamond. He follows after the flag and drag. Manages to get the slow out from the Tempest and the Cripple. But now it's Giants that are split up. They're pushing the bottom wave. Massive amount of Gambit minions, both top and bottom lane, pushing towards Giants. And Giants using the last minutes of their Baron buff to make a play. Willip was thinking about the recall, decides against it. There's those Gambit minions we were talking about.
Willip has to go back here because Nick is pushing down on the Zed, but Willip does have teleport, so they can push into this bottom lane here with the 4 guys, and knowing that he can join in as well. He's back in the base now, defending it, but Nick will be able to get a tower to go with the minions. And now, Giants pushing up. You got the 6% AP and AD, and you denied the 5th Dragon from Gambit, the one they've been waiting for all game long.
Baron buff is about to time out. But the value of that Dragon at 40 minutes, the first Dragon, is so much greater. 6% of what you've accrued over the entirety of the match. Giants up with a chance. Pepinero did throw down that Sun Disc Tower. He's done it actually very early. Both times he's casted on those inner turrets. Giants still a small amount of gold down, but unable to crack the inhibitor turrets of Gambit.
Yeah, and really one of the big problems for Gambit in this game here is also, again, you mentioned how they had the greatest stealth totems, didn't have the greater vision totem, there was not enough focus on the pink wards. Eddie doesn't even have Oracle Lens yet, despite Gambit staying around that Baron for such a long time trying to bait it simply. Didn't have enough tools to deny vision from Giants, and therefore they could never actually pick it up for free or get a big team fight going on. And that's, again, bought time for Giants. We're at the late game stage now. The Caitlyn suddenly is useful after a failed laning phase due to the lane swap. And obviously their Zia has been a big deal entire game long from Pepinero, and he's looking great now.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if you have something useful if you don't use it. You know, Giants, they now have all of the tools. They had the Baron buff, they took turrets, they took a dragon. Giants have the good vision in the defensive side of Gambit, but how do they start a fight?
Gambit is trying to set up a small trap here. If Giants went for the bottom lane wave, Gambit would just run straight down to the base, take inhibitor, and obviously try and push up the top wave as well. Decide now to go back because Giants didn't bite and run straight to this bottom lane. And that's going to be so much about these late game wards coming in, because people start max out their items, so they can't buy as many wards as you can in the early game. And obviously there's only a sidestone for Frederick, none for Diamond here, so he's completely relying on that stealth totem for his wards.
We need to see how Diamond uses it. I don't think they've done a whole lot, still sitting on a health potion for Diamond.
He just bought 2 health potions.
Deficio, I know you love the 40-minute health pots instead of wards. It is one of your favorite strategies all the time. That's sustained, man.
I know Kremble loves this too on the
So, unable to push further. Giants, Rylai's Crystal Scepter now picked up for Pepinero. No additional attack speed in his Azir build, which is what we've seen from many other regions. Going to be looking straight for that AP damage. For some burst up front as opposed to multiple auto attacks. And Giants, they need to make a play. Giants need to push their advantage. Use the scaling to their favor. They've hit massive, massive item, spikes and build plateaus, but they haven't made a play as a unit. Gambit have been scattered, but proactive, and Giants still super defensive. Maybe it's going to need 5 dragons for Giants.
Yeah, well, the last 5 minutes at least for Giants have actually been pretty good. Getting their first dragon, getting the Baron, obviously they cleared out all the outer turrets from Gambit as well. Still risky because you have the 4 dragons on Gambit, so you can never afford giving up a dragon. You can't trade it for the Baron, etc. But I like what Giants is doing now. Set up around it here. You have a lot of ping wards placed already. Oracle Lens already completed for Riot as well. Force Gambit into a 5 versus 5 team fight where you control the area, you control the ground. And then just see how Nick tries to go for a target and laugh at him when you QSS or hourglass it and he won't be able to pick up a kill. But we're going to have to see how Giants actually want to lock down Pinoy. Because there's no real hard CC straight onto him. You should never be able to land a bubble onto a Kallistas. So that's also why the Rylai's is coming in, obviously, from Pepinero, trying to get some slows on him with the castle and see if you can kill him.
I really want to see how Giants handle Vision and Baron and Dragon buff. With the fact that Gambit, 5 dragons, and that's nearly a game-ending buff. Or if Giants get their second dragon, but Gambit get a Baron, that could also be the tools that they need. Giants may have the opportunity to flank Gambit. Gambit are committing to this one. They're pushing down the lane. Ace in the hole is going to shred Edward's HP. Gambit a little split. Diamond not with his team. He's on the sidelines, looking to get a good Cataclysm. The inhibitor is secured from Gambit. This is going to allow them some pressure on the map. And still unable to find a fight. Whirlip gets the force pulse down. Gambit on the retreat. Damage put down. Giants still looking to find a way to engage, and it simply does not happen.
Oh.
Gambit take them on a tour of their own base and knock down the inhibitor while en route.
Yeah, smart move here. They're in mobile comp from Gambit and no hard engage obviously from Giants here, so they couldn't actually start the fight. They tried to, but instead Gambit with the inhibitor and staying around his bottom lane, trying to remove all the focus from Baron and Dragon and try and get these inhibitors down.
And look how effective Gambit are when they group up as 5 and actually try to make a team decision. Frederick caught by a death sentence. Edward decides against following in. 10 seconds before Dragon. Baron is up, and there are super minions in the middle lane. Gambit have arrested control of the map and of the game, and Giants need to find a window of opportunity.
They know they have to fight for this one here. Oh, and they got to Pepinero.
Let's see what he can do. A lot of damage down. Ignite burns out. Death sentence was held onto by Nick. Dragon being secured here from Gambit with Red and Smite. Dragon number 5 secured, and it was Nick from the side that allowed that to happen.
Yeah, got a good flank onto Pepinero. Didn't use his ulti, just poked him down a little bit. Forced him then to back away. Baron as well now, about to be started by Gambit. Only a few ping wards around it they can clear. And Giants once again forced into a very, very bad situation where they have to try and fight.
Azir is simply not there. 4 members of Giants trying to come in. Frederick's been caught. Werlip decides to engage from the sideline. Soul Shackle's already burned. His Cabashot flashes forward. Baron secured by Gambit as they take down Frederick. Now Pepinero hooked by the death sentence. Hourglass is available for Pepe, but he's holding on to it. Audrey doing the best he can to put damage down, but it's a 2-for-1 trade. Not over yet as Diamond continues to look for targets. Teleport comes up from Cabashot, and he throws the Dark Binding way wide. Gambit get 5th Dragon, Baron, a few kills, and looking to push the base.
Yeah, Baron buffed. You have the 5th Dragon wave pushing in as well for them. They're going to go straight for this tower. All the carries, though, are still alive from Giants. Trying to do the best to defend against Gambit here.
Oh, this is going to be really difficult. Diamond, as the team player, blocks that ace in the hole. This is going to be a 4v3 at best, but look at the damage onto Werlip. Pinoy is destroying him. Minions in the top lane pushing against Gambit, and Pepinero is the safe wave clear with those soldiers. They defend the Baron buff minions from Gambit, but Nick is going to empower them in the mid lane, and look at the damage top. Losing some HP on that tower.
They're going back now. Knowing that the minions wouldn't really be able to take it down in time, and you have the power of recall as well from the Baron here. So suddenly Gambit, where we mentioned how even though Giants would be stronger in a straight up fight, you've fallen so far behind, there's always the risk of the 5th Dragon, Obit Inhibitor as well. And Gambit actually made a very good late game call here, rushing straight down for that one, take Dragon, take Baron, managed to clear everything on the map. So well played by Gambit. Now they're showing some coordination.
And once again, they're staying grouped up. Cabashot does not have teleports. He's a little far away from his team, so Gambit wisely back away from that last push. I think for Gambit, they need to find a way to get rid of Pepinero in these base defense situations. At this stage, and with all of the AP that Pepe's got built up, even Baron-empowered minions are simply not enough. Baron is slowly wearing off for Gambit. Taking a look at the time really quickly. Yeah, Baron about a minute left. Dragon's going to time out in the next 30-odd seconds. Werlip does get caught out. He's been chilling smited. Hourglass is out. Eddie, he winds up. He connects. Death Sentence holds Werlip in place. One of the carries is down. Remember, Cabashot and Pinoy are not there. What can Giants do in reply? Frederick gets flayed backwards. Ace in the hole's not enough to kill him, but there's the soldiers. Emperor's Divide was not used from Giants, and Gambit managed to get out after securing a kill. Pinoy's also joined the fight. Baron still ticking for a few seconds longer. Gambit 5-on-4, a minute before Werlip's back up.
Yeah, Diamond had to go back to base, however, he was fairly low from that last low fight, and now Gambit want to play it very safe and have all 5 guys there before they really go for anything too aggressive. Just get a few hits on the turret. You have the BT shield, and Frederick dropping low.
So much damage. Soul Shackles was blown for that one. Fate's Call still available if Pinoy wants to lob his buddies into the Giants. Tower has been defended for the time being. Dark Binding not far enough. Edward doesn't connect either, but Gambit secured the inhibitor turret. Pepinero stepped away for a second, and that means the objective is secure. The super minions almost on the nexus now for Giants as that inhibitor has just respawned. Gambit, 2 open objectives to push down. All 5 members available. Tidal Wave is up for Idle if they want to throw it out. Gambit, however, going to secure the middle inhibitor. Most likely back away.
Again, making some better calls here in the late game. Can also go for the next dragon once it actually spawns. But the side waves pushing. And suddenly Giants getting denied that potential team fight they really wanted here in the late game. But remember, they don't have any real engage on their side. I mean, it's going to be about Werlip jumping in, landing a slow, and that's how you're looking to start a fight. And that's again why Gambit actually can avoid them now and just dance around Giants on the map, get all these objectives down. Suddenly, back in the driving seat.
Yeah, and that's definitely something I think we didn't actually hit on in Picks and Bans, is the fact that Giants Team Combat had this scaling, it, had these weak lanes, but they've got no tools outside of a bubble or a tidal wave to really lock down Gambit. And with the, the black shield, the shadows, the hop, skips, and jumps from Pinoy, and, even Jarvan being so mobile, it is quite difficult for that to happen. You look down the CS, 320, 350, 480, 430. Everybody's hit their mega late game states. And Gambit, I think wisely, are playing defensive in the base. We keep saying this, at least I am. last week Gambit lost a game when they were inside the base of their opponents. They definitely do not want to repeat that again. Nick split pushing top, Gambit setting up for their Dragon number 6.
Yeah, again, Gambit is playing it really smart in this late game. For all the mistakes they've made earlier, we got to give them full credit now for the way they're securing all objectives.
Oh, they caught Audrey. Diamond was trying to zone him away. No other support. Now it's Diamond the one that's in trouble. Rend goes out and Dark Binding. Flash forward. Soul Shackles picks up 1. Now Nick looking to jump in. He's got some AoE on 3. Emperor's Divide's going to split Gambit away as Nick gets popped from GA, but he's taken down Rydell in the process. Edward, where is the death sentence? Is it ready? No, it is not. Lantern pulls him backwards. A 3 for GA. And Gambit have got the numbers to finish this game.
Yeah, pushing straight in. You have Super Minion coming as well here. This should be the win for Gambit.
And they'll be able to connect. Audrey gets caught out. Edward in the house. Audrey forced away. Gambit are sticking onto the Nexus turrets. Werlip's doing the best he can to put damage out, but look at the burst from Pinoy. He's going to get some healing up and down. Audrey's going to get taken out. Gambit secure the win after 50 minutes. Taking down Giants. Gambit Gaming destroy Giants Gaming's Nexus. GG, GG.
Yeah, good win for Gambit here. Very important for them as a team. We're now tied with Giants in the standings. 2 and 4, 2 wins, 4 losses. Actually, 2 wins and 5 losses, we should probably say instead, as we are now on to week 4 of the LCS.
Yeah, I want to also just touch on the standings. That's a 5-game losing streak that Giants have now suffered. Smiles all around, actually, from the players. The Giants have now mirrored Gambit's losing streak at the beginning of the split. They're both down at the bottom of the table. The intro to the show was talking about streaks, winning streaks, losing streaks. Gambit now have 2 games on their streak, but the big pressure's on Giants. They weren't playing bad, but they weren't playing proactive. You know, there's very little you can point to other than that Baron play that you can say Giants were really going into Gambit, was really pushing Gambit and pushing Giants' limits.
That's true. Again, they fell very far behind from lane swap the early game. And then despite them actually getting to a late game and getting a lot of picks onto Gambit, because they had an open inhibitor, because there was 4 dragons for Gambit, there were so many ways for them to still lose the game, despite them actually looking very, very good suddenly after picking up their Baron. And that's what Gambit played around, and that's why we have to give them credit for the late game decisions, how they actually avoided the team fights, got the right objectives, and ended up winning the game. But you have to, I mean, we have to again look at the early to mid game where there were too many mistakes for both the teams.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. But for now, Gambit can look at it and say, we secured a win, it wasn't pretty, but we have a win, and that's the important part. We can then say, what did we do wrong, analyze it with our coach, analyst, whatever we do have, and then obviously for tomorrow, it's just a new day once again, and you can make up for everything that happened the day before and show a whole new performance.
Yeah, really, really difficult setup for both of these teams. I think for Giants, they are showing some growth. Since their losing streak began, yes, there are mistakes from both sides, and you can talk about those, you know, on end. But Giants are still putting up strong fights. They're staying even. Yeah, they were behind, but it was 2,000-3,000 gold at max for the entirety of that game. They just need to figure out what it is that the team needs. Maybe in-game shot calling. Maybe something like that is just lacking. There's not enough plays being made or called. So I think they need to figure out how do they break out the safety shell? How do they get out of the bubble and start playing aggressively?
I agree. I think it's a shot calling problem for Giants in terms of like lane swapping is a lot about shot calling as well. You communicate what does the enemy team do. Are they pushing a wave with the AD carry? Then you should expect them to come for a dive. Obviously with 3 or 4 members, and then you move around that. And then obviously the late game team fights or late game calls. How do we get these objectives, or how do we take something while they're getting that dragon we can't fight for anyway? Because that was really also the problem for Giants, how they would sit back and watch Gambit take every single dragon and not try and get anything for it. Don't try and push a tower in the top lane. They tried once in the mid lane, but it was just too late and too little while they did it. And that's why Gambit could defend it and just stay in the lead.
Yeah, definitely the case. I do think some praise to Cabashard and to Pinoy for doing a good game. Now, for a closer look at that matchup, let's throw things over to Shox and Crepo over at the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Quick Shot. We're here with the man himself, Pinoy of Gambit, after that victory. Congratulations, playing a mean Kalista in that one. Actually, we've only seen Kalista twice here in Europe, and it was 2 times freeze, even though it was only banned out 3 times. Why did you decide to go for Kalista against this team and in your own team comp?
So I've talked to a lot of NA pros, like the AD carries, Doublelift and Sneaky, and asked for a lot of tips. Because I really see a lot of like playmake ability, and I really think the champ is really good, and it really fits my style. So I've been playing it like the whole week. So I practiced really hard because we lost to Kumheng Wolves to it. So I've really got more motivated to play it, and then I just pulled it out because I felt confident playing it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Kalista is definitely underplayed in Europe. An extremely strong laner. We saw them pull out the Caitlyn. I assume that's why you guys lane swapped away from it. Something I actually wanted to ask, have you guys experimented with binding your jungler in a lane swap, since you're not actually interacting too much with your support? But have you guys thought about that at all?
Not really. Like we thought about binding the top laner since we're doing this camp, so we can do it faster, but we haven't practiced so much, so we didn't really do it. But other than that, we haven't really thought about binding the jungler.
All right, but it did work out for you guys. You guys got first blood on the Kassadin. I just have like 2 questions before we roll that clip, really. You went for the Cutlass first, and there was a discussion on the desk. Obviously, you can hear that. But they were discussing whether you should go BF Sword first or Cutlass, and you ended up going for the Cutlass. Why?
I don't know. I just like the blade build into Hurricane more. It's like really like attack speed, just jumping around, having fun, and then
being quicker and able to chase the Kassadin. I agree there. And then we have the first blood coming up, so we can roll that immediately and just talk us through
get that up on
happening.
the screen. And Pinoy, you can run us through your moves here on Kalista.
So I see that Kassadin is level 5, so I just try to play as much as aggressive, and he doesn't really respect my damage, so I just go for him. Either I will force the flash or just kill him, because Kalista's damage when she stacks E is just super strong, so I just kill him for free.
Did you know you were going to kill him?
I would force his flash no matter what, because I see his positioning, and he's like, I don't think he respected the damage, and I just punished him.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. And especially with the Cutlass, you can slow them and then get even more hops coming in with the increased attack speed. Yeah, good job there. But then it kind of went downhill. What went wrong in the mid game, would you say?
So I think, I don't know, it was just hard because Giants just, I don't know, I don't think they respect Kalista as all as a damage. Like, we killed them bot lane as well, and then we went into the jungle because when people are not respecting me, or if I'm just having fun, I can get a bit cocky. So I just walked into the jungle, and me and Edward got punished for it. So I'm sorry for that mistake. That was on me. But yeah, Asir was farming really well. The comp is really hard to break through because they have Caitlyn, Asir. So we tried with split push. We had all the Drake control. So we just playing a bit small. Like our issue as a Gambit is like our execution, like trying to find the open hole where we just demolish the enemy. So we're still working hard as a team.
Yeah, there is improvement seeing week to week here for you guys. 2 wins on the board now. Do you think that you're improving fast enough to get out of that bottom of the table zone as the season ends or split ends?
I think we are, because the first 2 weeks we didn't have internet. We had problems, all people getting into the house, so we didn't really practice. Like this last 2 weeks we have been practicing a lot because internet's been good, and we're all in the team working with our coach. So I'm really looking forward to what the future has to bring, and I'm really confident that we will be a really strong team.
Well, fantastic to hear. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we're about to take a short break, but when we return, H2K will try and start their climb back up the standings as they face off against Elements. Don't go anywhere.
You know why we won? It's because I have different shoes. With the other shoes, we have 05. So that's loser shoes.
Yes, and
1-0 is a new beginning, boys.
I took off my shoes as well.
While the double bubble connects, Pinoy forced to flash away. The wall knocks him back. Edward gets thrown from Fate's call.
Go, 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 go! Listen!
内面
Där. Kicking on the side.
Healing up and down. Audrey's going to get taken out. Gambit secure the win after 50 minutes. Taking down Giants. GG.